We go to the first caller. Hi, Craig from Minnesota. Welcome.
Hi, Adya. Good evening to you.
Thank you. Good evening.
First off, I just want to say I'm very grateful for this course, and so thank you.
Lovely. Glad it's worked for you.
Just very quickly, for the sake of others that also have very important and pressing questions, I'll try to keep this very simple. I've had a 41-year faithful meditation practice, and that's always been effortless and easy. Mm-hmm. And the question I have for you tonight, and thank you so much for going into it, is an experience I had which was a gut-level awakening. Mm-hmm. And there was no substrate, or there was no standard for which to gauge this. It came at a very, low point in my life, and I know the substance of it because I actually had asked you about this, before. But the question is when you come up against that, it's not something that like any other experience.
No.
For me, it was pure terror. Mm-hmm. So it's not an experience that, I'm going to go, I'd like to have that experience again.
Right. Yes.
But you never forget it. And in the small glimpse that I had, I saw everything that was dear to me was going to die.
Uh-huh.
Everything.
Yeah.
And as I said, you had covered this question before, but tonight you went into it in a way that I haven't heard before. And so the question is, we always want to ask that question. The ego does, what to do.
Yeah.
But I'm asking that in earnest from my heart.
I understand, and I appreciate that, Craig. I know where you're asking that question from, And when you get down to that sort of existential level of being down there in the gut, you can see some things that are quite shocking, right? I mean, things that on an intellectual level, we know, even an intellectual, we know that nothing's going to last. We know that everything that's present is going to disappear. We know that on an intellectual level. But to know it in your guts, at this really deep existential level, to not just know it, but kind of see it, you might say, this is totally different, isn't it? Completely. I couldn't even state how different it is to intellectually understand it, and actually, when it hits you, it can be so shocking. It's almost like it can just take your breath away. When you see, as I say, that in the end, we say goodbye to everything and everyone, right? That's part of the rhythm of life, right? And that's part of the terror that we can connect when we get really down to the seat of consciousness, right? And so what do you ultimately do is, first of all, you just notice that there's a way in which often when you encounter something like that, there's a kind of pulling back and pulling away, if you can, right? Even if you don't want to, there's just an instinctual way of sort of pulling back from this kind of insight, let's say, and the more you pull away from it, the more difficult it becomes. That's the counterintuitive things. The more you try to pull away, the more afraid you get. A lot of things in life, you back away from something and you're backing away from danger, you're backing away from the experience. But at this existential level, the more you back away, the more afraid you get, the more overwhelmed it seems to be. So that being the case, even though it's totally counterintuitive, it's more like just an inward leaning in to the very kind of things that you might see that would cause you to pull back a little bit, to go, oh my God, that's just overwhelming. And instead, just a kind of leaning in, nothing too big. It's not a big internal gesture. It's just a very slight internal gesture of sort of leaning into it. And as you start to lean into it, the overwhelming and the fear elements start to dissipate as you really lean into it, as you kind of do that counterintuitive gesture inside.
I realized when I had this experience that I had had it before many times throughout my life.
Sure.
And the natural instinct is every time to do something, to run away, to run, to do, go work out, anything possible.
Right.
To get very far away from it.
Yeah. And isn't it funny, even though you have that, right? Everybody has that. Simultaneously, something's inextricably drawn towards it.
Yes.
It's like you can't, I don't want to run into that again. Well, not in that way, but I sure would like to visit it. And, it's sort of a strange thing, isn't it?
It's strange, and I just have to say that, listening to hours and hours and hours of your tapes, the only thing that, honestly, just from bottom of my heart, the only thing that's kept me going when these have come up is just for the first time in my life since maybe being a small boy, just to not intellectually, but just to be curious, just to say, okay, this is not easy. You're going for the grand prize. This ain't easy.
Right.
So just keep going. Try to keep going.
That's right.
Just be curious.
That's right.
That's all I got.
I love that. As you know, I love that word curiosity because it ties back in with that childlike quality of wonder and curiosity that is so much more spiritually potent than the sort of adult version of curiosity is just so serious and, whereas that younger version of curiosity, even when we start to connect with the outer edges of the infinite and something wants to pull away, but the curiosity is like, ooh, what is that? I wonder what would happen if I just didn't run from this thing? I wonder. I'm terrified, but I wonder. I'm kind of curious. And those are the forces that we're playing with at that level of our being. At the moment that at the moment that the willingness arises to just to let whatever's going to happen, including when your mind goes, this is going to destroy me. I'm going to be annihilated.
Yes.
And, okay, it feels that way. It absolutely can feel that way. And when that arises, I can't tell you how, because you see, this is something that has to be true. There can't be anything phony about it. But there is, Craig, there is something in you, and it is connected with your curiosity, which is why I'm glad you mentioned that word. There is something within you that it's also in the heart of that curiosity, that in the face of that seeming threat of the infinite, what has the attitude of, okay, all right, I'll be annihilated. I have to find out what's on the other side of annihilation. Even if there isn't another side of annihilation, I just have to find out. I'm just too damn curious. I'm tired of this. I just have to find out. And that's what ultimately just gets you to the other side of it. Because, of course, there's another side to this, right? This is all sort of the... now that you've experienced this, kind of getting to this threshold a bunch of times, you probably understand better now what originally the creators of, like, if you go to a lot of these, not only a lot of Eastern Buddhist temples and Hindu temples, but, you go to Europe, you go to the cathedrals, and so many of the times, right near the entrance or in the four corners, there are these sort of terrible, frightening-looking creatures, right? Whether they're gargoyles or what, they're guardians, right? And I remember I used to look at those and go, why the hell did somebody do that in this beautiful thing, this absolutely stunning work of art, and they put this hideous creature right at the front door? Why did that happen?
I know why now.
Now you know why. right? Because other people have experienced what you're experiencing. And they know, boy, as you're really going to walk into the temple, right? If you're really going to walk all the way on the inside, this is what you experience. It's like these hideous kind of, metaphorical guardians, you might say. But really, all that fear is and things is really a way of, it's self-stripping. It's like, we go in there without any agenda, or we don't get in. We go in even without the agenda to survive it. If we have the agenda, I want to get through this and make it through and survive. We'll be right at that edge of fear, and we won't be able to really get through it. At the moment, we're kind of like, well, my curiosity is getting me to even lean into this, as strange as it is. Then all of a sudden, the guardians, all of a sudden they kind of just become benevolent, like almost like the snap of a finger.
The name of the game at least the way I'm wired and the way I see it is, you just have to you have to be willing. You have to be willing to just let it happen.
Yeah. Because see, what you're experiencing, what's really happening, which we don't really know until you look back, till you've gone through, and then you look kind of back in the rearview mirror. What's really happening is self in its most rudimentary form, right? Not the conceptual form, not even the emotional form, but just this sort of clinch, like emptiness, just in the form of a fist almost, is the most rudimentary sense of separation. This is where all of your experiences of separation arise from. Emotional experience of separation, intellectual experiences, all of them come from this one place, right? And now you're down to the very, very, very core. And this is this form of self, which is just a gesture of contraction. If it lets go, that's it. The game is up. There isn't a lower level. There isn't a deeper form of self. That's it. And so the only thing that self can imagine is some very, very frightening scenarios, right? What that separate grasp doesn't know, though, and can't know until it lets go, or can't experience until it lets go, is that the entire grasp, what's grasping, is the infinite. There's nothing apart from it. So it's just infinite in the form of a fist, of a grasp. And so from the separate self thinks, if I let go, I'm totally letting go of myself. From the infinite's point of view, all of its letting go it's just letting go of a gesture of contraction. It's not really letting go of itself at all, because there's nothing else. So the whole grasping and the letting go is just a form that the infinite, the ultimate ground of being, has taken that form of grasp, and then it gets terrified to let go, because it sees that the infinite it thinks and experiences it as being separate. I'll be obliterated if I let go. But there's actually nothing to be obliterated. When my hand stops balling itself up into a fist and lets go, is anything lost? You see, it's just, no, now the hand's open. Nothing's lost. Sure. You can say the grasping is lost, but heck, who doesn't want to lose the grasping? Right? Yeah. But all that's known when the letting go happens. All that's known by looking back. I can tell you this, and I'm not telling you this because it's going to necessarily totally help you, except in the sense of sometimes it is helpful that someone who's kind of gone through the crucible comes back and says, hey, it's not quite as bad as you think. It's not quite as bad as you feel. The loss that you feel isn't really a loss after all. And even though you still got to meet all that yourself, every once in a while, it's kind of handy that your human self, that your humanity knows, you know what? Lots of people have done this before me. And they haven't just dropped dead. You know what I mean?
This is like the once I heard you say, if you when you die, if you have your cell phone, give me a call, let me know. So this is my cell phone call from the other side to let me know that actually people have made it to.
That's right.
Through this.
That's right.
Wonderful
That's right.
news.
Yeah. It's totally makeable.
Adya, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, my friend. Great to talk.